education policy വായിച്ചിട്ട് എങ്ങനെയാണ്
Hello, welcome to Marshall's Book Cafe. This is Annie, and today we are in conversation with Professor Dilip Chavan. Professor Dilip Chavan teaches English language and literature at Nanded University. And today we will talk about humanities as well as educational system post-COVID. So, sir, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
My first question to you is, COVID wasn't only a health emergency, it was an educational too. Like the health system, the educational system too failed. My question is, what will be the future of humanities in the post-COVID period?
Yeah, you are right. This pandemic was not just a health emergency. It has affected virtually every aspect of our life, leading us to literally a sort of say chaos. So far as education is concerned, I look at it as really a system in crisis. I mean, it was in crisis even before the pandemic, but the pandemic added a lot of, say, problems to something that has already been existing. This pandemic was seen as an opportunity by all the investors in the education industry to grow. And if you look at the growth of online education in the last few months, particularly the last 2 years, and coaching industry and growing privatization of higher education in India. And it was in this pandemic that the government of India announced the National Education Policy 2020. So looking at all these changes in a time of crisis, particularly a crisis which was unprecedented so far as India or the world is concerned. So this is going to be really a very chaotic kind of a situation in future.
So what do you think, how it affected the female students?
Yeah, gender really played a significant role because it was in the early phase of the lockdown that everybody was expected to use smartphone, and the government also insisted on classes to be conducted through online mode. And we know that in any family, which obviously is a patriarchal family, girls are not so encouraged to use a smartphone. I come from Nanded, where girls really are not so encouraged, and they don't really feel so free in using smartphone. So that was a problem. Another thing that when the family was in crisis during the pandemic, girls felt sort of say overburdened. I mean, they had a lot of work to share, a lot of responsibilities, some kind of added responsibilities, because many people had lost jobs, and poverty-stricken families had to suffer more than, say, the lower middle class or upper class families. So the girls coming from this kind of disadvantaged background had to suffer during the pandemic. So this has been statistically proven also.
My next question, how do you look at the changing nature of the curriculum, precisely speaking, in the context of new educational policy?
Yeah, I mean, so far as curriculum is concerned, we need to realize that it has really a little to do with the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, we find curriculum or syllabus was always subjected to some kind of ideological intervention. If you look at the history of education in England as well as India, we find that the ruling class always, wanted certain ideas to be disseminated through textbooks and curriculum. So textbook becomes a very powerful tool for dissemination of dominant ideas in the society. So school is a very legitimized kind of an institution which is used for this. So this present government obviously was very much interested in making certain changes in the textbooks. So if you look at the textbook controversy in Karnataka now, you will see realize how textbook has always been a subject of controversy and a site of, say, class and caste conflict. So this government already glorified the so-called ancient Indian tradition of education, which in fact needs to be questioned and problematized. So the state is certainly interested in breaking the secular framework of our textbook curriculum, and the government is interested more in, say, bringing in some kind of, say, communal element in the textbooks and all that. So this is what is seen in many parts of India where the BJP is ruling. So this is going to be really a disastrous kind of change if curriculum is changed that way.
So now let me quote a statement from New Educational Policy. It says highest quality education for all learners will be provided regardless of socio-economic background. How do you respond to the phrase socio-economical background?
Yeah, things have changed very fast over the last few decades. Particularly over the last few years, where the government has started adding one category to the earlier category, which was constitutionally recognized. We used to speak about socially disadvantaged or socially backward communities. Now the state has brought into the element of economic backwardness. So we have a new category called socioeconomic backwardness, which is not really constitutionally acceptable or constitutionally recognized one. So adding economic element to backwardness has already been challenged by the sociologists and by many other scholars. So this is one, because the Constitution of India has identified caste and tribe as two significant parameters of recognizing backwardness in India. So we have a new category which was used so frequently in the new education policy, that is socio-economic backward communities. So this is one. And secondly, so far as the promises are made, we find all the promises are empty and hollow. If you look at the policy, we'll find that there is no significant, provision for increasing the expenditure on education. There is no significant critique of rampant privatization of higher education, which now we witness in India. There is no assurance of common school system or quality education to all the children. The very government announced a few months ago that there are around 15 crore out of school children in India. So there is no mention of this in the policy. So how come that the minister makes this announcement outside the parliament, and the official document has nothing to say about such a huge number of out of school children in India? So there are promises. If you look at this, if you read the policies so innocently, so naively, I think you are going to be deceived. It's a very deceptive document. So if you read it very innocently, I think you will come under a very different kind of an impact. So one needs to have a very careful and critical reading of the policy. And if you make that kind of a reading, you will realize that all the promises are hollow, and the people are really not going to be benefited by this education to the extent that the promises are made.
Next question. If academics and academia fail, as it seems, who will suffer the most?
If you look at the universities in many of the leading countries, you will find that universities are the spaces where the students and the teachers enjoy more freedom, and they seem to be more critical. They develop some kind of critical thinking. They have freedom to design their own curriculum, and they also develop some kind of, culture of criticism and culture of protest. If something goes wrong, it is the university that gives the first, critical response to whatever wrong that has happened in the society. But over the past years, we find that the university faculties are under tremendous stress, and they are afraid of some kind of, punishment, or some kind of, situation where they might fall in. So if you look at the universities now, you will find the universities were asked to conduct seminars and workshops on the implementation of the national education policy. So a university is now reduced down to, a government office where a national education policy is looked upon as just a government document to be implemented. So the university authorities were instructed to conduct such kind of seminars, which universities are not simply supposed to be doing. So a university is supposed to provide a sort of, say, a critical feedback to the government on whatever policies that the government is going to implement. This has happened in India. I mean, the university professors and other authorities enjoyed more freedom than they are now enjoying now. But this is not the case today. We find many of the universities have simply blindly provided their acceptance to the policy, and they are going to implement the policy now without giving any critical thought to what has been said in the policy. Yeah, this is what I think the case is.
Okay, so one more question to you, and listen to me carefully. So, താങ്കൾ ന്യൂ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ പോളിസി വായിച്ചിട്ട് എങ്ങനെയാ കണ്ടത് അത്?
Poda.
So, thank you, sir. Had a great time with you. Had an enlightening and enriching conversation with you. And hope you all will like it. Thank you.